Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Canal, the International. I'm called Maureen Z. We begin with our top stories. Smoking usually starts like a taste of the so-called pleasure, but the smokers later become heavily addicted to it. After years into it, it becomes very difficult to quit. We talk to some smokers on this day where it is being observed as World No Tobacco Day. And the rates, and we get you to the northwest region of Cameroon to talk about a meeting to discuss the question of the sealing of business premises in Bangui for respecting ghost town. Calls have been conveyed for tomorrow, Thursday morning, at the Bon Motor Park in that chief town of Momo Division. A few hours ago, Wednesday, the mayor for Bangui and the member of parliament for Momo East went to the market advising traders to avoid flexing muscles with administration to avoid future occurrences. And 3 days into the baccalaureate general examinations, the branch head of the fees, the baccalaureate, visited some centers here in the city of Douala to check on the effectiveness of the examinations. Those were major stories. Details right ahead. Meeting to discuss the question of the sealing of business premises in Bangui, Momo Division, northwest region of Cameroon for respecting ghost town calls has been convened for tomorrow, Thursday morning at the Bon Motor Park, the chief town of Momo Division. A few hours ago, this Wednesday, the mayor from Bangui and the member for parliament for Momo East went to the market advising traders to avoid flexing muscles with the administration to avoid future occurrences. More on the story with our reporter Annie Collins, Annie and Saleh Sharifa.
Close to 2 weeks after their shops were sealed by the Bangui Council on instructions from the senior divisional officer for Momo, a meeting with the concerned traders has been slated for Thursday, June 1 at the Mbom Market Square. After several criticisms and condemnations of the municipal action, the mayor of Mbangui says he could not help acting on the instructions of his supervisory authority, who is the senior divisional officer.
Those shops that were sealed have not committed any particular crime. And that's the reason if they want to do the unsealing, they are doing it for everybody. So no store is going to be left out. And again, I want to reiterate, without mincing word, that no franc is going to be given before the seals are removed.
Also accompanied by the Member of Parliament for Momo East constituency in Bangui, Honorable Prudential Fungang, the mayor has on Wednesday, May 31, met and talked face-to-face with some of the traders.
Try to make peace. If we don't deal with fine, I don't know say go to come again. And you see, I said they would like for come now for Saturday fine.
Yes. You know what way would pass through. It can put seal. Normally, I know say before they come, you can lock money, please. Before you inform me, you give warning. If you know obey, then you can't steal the place.
It is hoped that the June meeting between the traders and the administration of Mbangui will result in the reopening of the sealed shops as untold hardship was brought to bear on the local population. It should be recalled that the several tens of shops were sealed because the traders heeded the calls of ghost towns, especially prior to May 20th celebrations.
That was rather a report by Kejang Henry Atembe. Now, out of 6,515 schools surveyed in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, only 3,013 were operational during the academic year 2022-2023 in that part of the country. This has caused a high demand for education in urban areas where many displaced people are taking a refuge. More on the story with our reporter Saleh Sharifa.
According to the recent statistics published by the United Nations, only 3,013 schools out of the 60,515 schools in the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon were operational during the 2022-2023 academic year. At least 54% of schools remain closed due to the prevailing insecurity situation in these regions.
The first problem we are facing is with the Amba boys. Anybody who attempts to go to school, a government school, that person is in trouble. The second thing is that even the government forces themselves, they target us.
Perhaps at the time school boycott was good, but school boycott cannot run for long. And you cannot sacrifice the well-being of kids for political reasons.
According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, there is a high demand for education in urban areas where many displaced people are taking refuge. However, there is not enough space to accommodate more children.
Actually, restoring the system to the levels of schooling they had before the crisis is going to take a lot more time. Some of the areas are insecure and have been abandoned for like 3, 4, 5 years, and it's difficult without massive investment to get schools there going again.
Elsewhere, the international organization laments that funds are limited to reach all children in need and enable them to access formal or non-formal learning opportunities where possible.
And 3 days into the written part of the Baccalaureate General Examinations, the branch head of l'Office de Baccalaureate today visited some centers to check on midweek evaluation. He exchanged with students and chief of centers while encouraging them in their duties. Just to note that the littoral region has so far recorded 200 absences during the Baccalaureate General Examinations that is ongoing across Cameroon. Meantime, the littoral region also scores or is classified as second in the number of registered students across the country. More in the following story.
3 days into the Baccalaureate General Examinations, the branch head of l'Office de Baccalaureate Examination in the littoral is on the field for a midweek evaluation. After visiting 3 accommodation centers, that is Lycée Aqua, Collège Saint-Michel and Lycée de Newbel, and after exchanging with chiefs of center and examination superintendents, Desiree Disake expressed satisfaction.
2023 section of the baccalaureate exams in the littoral region. We register 30,832 candidates. Unfortunately, we have had 216 absences. After 3 days, we notice with satisfaction that the baccalaureate in our region is going on smoothly.
The representative of l'Office de Baccalaureate equally exchanged with the candidates. It was a moment for chiefs of centers to present a partial report of the first 3 days of the exams.
We are on day 3 today, and from the first day we had 592 candidates who registered. Out of the 592, 14 were absent. We had 3 girls and 11 boys, and those statistics have been maintained up to date. We still have the same number. We had 17 rooms and 34 invigilators and 3 external invigilators.
Candidates with poor health and absentees were computed. It should be noted, the littoral is classified second after the central region with the highest number of candidates sitting in for the baccalaureate examinations in 2023.
Addicted to it, and after years into it, it becomes a very difficult to quit. On this day of World No Tobacco, our reporter High Sencha talked to non-smokers or those who have succeeded to quit smoking and those who are still smoking as well. His story.
He was a cigarette addict for over 30 years until prayers miraculously brought him out of the danger.
En fait, j'ai juste commencé à prier, je voulais arrêter.
When I noticed that cigarette wasn't helping me in any way, I started praying. I prayed so hard and finally stopped. I did nothing else. But unlike Pierre, other chronic smokers explain that despite their willingness to quit smoking, the bond with a cigarette seems inseparable. It is very difficult to stop. You try quitting, but it is like you have been condemned to live with it. It seems like cultism. I have tried several times, but I always go back to it. Notwithstanding, at the moment, he tries reducing the number of sticks per day, another attempt to quit. I used to smoke 1 packet a day, but now I have moderated. I can take 2 sticks a day. And not only has Pierre vowed never to go back to this old dangerous habit, the former smoker sends a word of caution to young people hoping to venture into cigarette smoking. I can never fall into such a trap. It is a bad trap. I advise those who want to start not to try it. When you start as a youth, you will be tempted to remain in it. Many confess that there is no particular pleasure derived from smoking, but they keep running behind it, particularly when they go out drinking in bars, these disregarding the health warning on the packets.
And the rate of smoking in Cameroon keeps rising despite warning messages on cigarette packaging, peer influence, and frustrations as just some of the reasons that force people into smoking. Our reporter Gladys Ambo Dibang sought to know from some cigarette smokers why they find it difficult to quit the habit. Her story.
These warning signs on cigarette packages doesn't rebuke smokers. Alfred Ngweng, for example, has been smoking for decades. He says he derives pleasure in smoking.
When something happens with me, if I don't smoke, I will not be living fine. And when I smoke, I will sleep fine. If I don't smoke, I will not be feeling fine.
In spite of the huge financial burden related to smoking, quitting is difficult for this smoker as the thought of quitting makes him sick. I want to quit smoking, but my body finds it difficult to respond to my desire. I know it's dangerous. I am afraid to contract an illness, but I keep smoking. Cognizance of the dangers, Alfred Ngweng has broken the bone of nicotine addiction. Today, he advises other smokers of the dangers.
I've stopped it because it gives high blood, I give tuberculosis, I give me cough. That's why I've stopped, not to smoking. But for now, I will advise people not to smoke because it gives sick. Tuberculosis is not good. Even the sign that I've drawn on this packet of cigarette is not good for people to smoke cigarette. That's why I've stopped cigarette. Now I was not able to run. That's why it made me to stop it.
Medics explain that kicking the habit of smoking is difficult due to the substance found in tobacco that leaves smokers addicted.
And there is a substance in cigarette that makes it difficult to stop. It's called nicotine. You can be dependent for the rest of your life if you start smoking just 1 cigarette. And if you want to stop smoking, you have to consult neurologist or addictologist. Now, the best way to prevent smoking is never start smoking.
Dr. Doris Ngenga warns against craving for smoking because the substance in cigarettes provokes cancer, lung and heart diseases. She says the warning labels on cigarette packages are not enough to dissuade smokers and urge policymakers to call for an end to the fabrication of cigarettes if they must help the population stay healthy.
And the World Health Organization says there is an urgent need to take legal actions to reduce tobacco production, as it is a threat to food security. And as the world commemorates World No Tobacco Day, May 31, the director of the World Health Organization has called for the world to grow more food, not tobacco. A reporter on that beat is Saleh Sharifa.
According to the World Health Organization, tobacco is a contributing factor to food insecurity. Across the globe, 3.5 million hectares of lands are converted for tobacco production each year. This has equally contributed to deforestation. Tobacco production equally contributes to soil degradation, as it needs heavy use of fertilizers. So far, compared to other agricultural activities such as maize production and livestock grazing, tobacco farming has a far more destructive impact on the ecosystem, as its farmlands are more prone to desertification. As the world commemorates May 31st as World No Tobacco Day, there is an urgent need to take legal measures to reduce tobacco production and sensitize farmers on production of alternative food crops. In low and middle income countries, no profit is gained from tobacco as cash crop. It equally damages almost every organ on the body, particularly the respiratory system and cardiovascular system, thereby reducing the lifespan.
And according to the Cameroon Coalition for Tobacco Control, cigarette smoking remains a leading cause of preventable deaths in Cameroon, with over 66,000 deaths each year. The coalition joins its voice to that of the international community today to call on farmers to grow food and not tobacco. In a press conference this May 31 in Yaoundé, members of the Control Coalition equally called on the media to intensify sensitization to lure many stop tobacco consumption. Here is an excerpt of the executive secretary selected by a reporter, Haisencha.
Dear farmer, remember that you are susceptible to contracting green tobacco disease when you grow tobacco and handle the leaves. Growing tobacco exposes you to heavy chemical and pesticides. Chemical substance deposited on clothes can cause secondary exposure of your family, particularly your children. During this day, dear media partner, we urge you on this occasion to continue to support these noble causes by sharing information on harmful effects of tobacco, as well as our advocacy messages in your multiple communication channels. The Cameroonian Coalition for Tobacco Control and all her affiliated organizations continue to play their role for tobacco-free generation. We therefore reiterate that never starting to smoke and quitting smoking will significantly limit
and measures to enhance the form and content of the 2022 State of Human Rights in Cameroon is being fine-tuned at a validation workshop on the way at the Ministry of Justice, the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. This to ensure the contributions of all the stakeholders are taken into consideration. More on the story with our reporter, Beatrice Ngamo.
Each and every right needs a positive action from the state, but at times, violation steps in. What human rights defenders and activists usually channel to the government for action.
The report of the nation on the state of human rights and each and every stakeholder's first-hand contribution, and there is a team in the Ministry of Justice which formalized it in terms of a report.
It is the draft report that has been submitted before the representatives of the administration and judicial institutions, some international organizations and civil society actors for examination, criticisms and approval.
And the context being we're coming out of the COVID crisis, but entering into a new crisis led by the war war in Ukraine, which had an impact on the economic situation of the country.
The challenges notwithstanding, it came out from the draft that there are some strides in the normative and institutional framework and operational level.
We had the text on the maritime piracy. We also had the text on human reproduction. We also have many institutional arrangements as well as many actions that were taken to uphold the rights of people in Cameroon.
On the form, the 2022 report is with 3 traditional parts: civil and political rights, human rights issues and specific rights, and economic, social, and cultural rights. The content aims to summarize the main events and actions relating to human rights in Cameroon. The 2-day deliberation, opened this Wednesday at the Ministry of Justice, is chaired by the Minister Delegate Jean de Dieu Momo.
And that report by Breaches and Gamo brings us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast, the English language on Canal International. Thanks so much for watching. But coming up next is the brief with Leo Piejou. As for me, I'll be back same time tomorrow. Good night.